Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from worldwide. I'm Sterling. Great to have you back on the channel again. This show is being recorded for Sunday, April 17th, 2022. And it's an important Sunday and an important week, if you will, for holidays. So I want to wish everybody that acknowledges Easter a happy Easter. And for all those that acknowledge Passover, wishing them a joyous Passover. And our Passover start on Friday and ends on Saturday, so joyous Passover. I also a little bit of housekeeping for those that want to reach me. It's very easy to do. Look for sterlingpsychicmedium.com. Look for the book a session tab. It's very easy from there to a book a session. And my office team always keeps it very up to date, real time. I also want to do just a little bit of housekeeping at the front of this show. The reason we put together the channel was really to show how all things in the universe are tied together. So everything from extraterrestrials to angels and guides and time travel and portals and astral travel and science and health and emerging technology and CRISPR technology, gene editing, but all these things are tied together in the universe. And in fact, it's all of the entities that are on the other side that really are out here to help us. And so on this important holiday season, holiday weekend, a lot of our family members, angels and guides, and lots of spiritual loving entities, elevated masters on the other side, all come to try to support us and take care of us and show us an extra little bit of grace and goodwill. So anyway, a little bit of what the purpose is behind this channel. And in fact, we come across, seasons like this, how a lot of the spiritual and love-based entities, the other side, really come through to try to help us. So I want to make sure that message got out there for everybody. So last but not least, if you find these shows helpful, just remember to like, subscribe, share. All those things really help the channel. Now, with no further ado, I thought we'd go through a countdown. I think this week we have 46 questions. We gather all these questions from our community board. We put out a request every week on Mondays for the following Sunday show. And then my wife does go through and garners them, and we try to select questions that have not been asked before. And then we also put timestamps on these shows within about 24 hours of the show's posting. So let's get started on today's questions. Question 46 on the countdown. Social Security had a bump this year, but has not even touched the inflation of 2022. Will Social Security and SSI recipients get another decent bump for next year, or at least something to help with the higher prices? Yes, they're telling me that very soon after the midterm elections this year, there's going to be another bump that'll be approved. I think the bump this year is something like 5.9%, but it looks like there'll be something that'll be 3, 4, 5%, another 5%. So I do see something coming, they're telling me, but it's going to be after the midterm elections. 45 in the countdown. Will Raphael Warnock retain his Senate seat against Herschel Walker? Yes. Warnock wins, right? And looks like Herschel Walker does not win. That's what they're telling me. So it looks like the seat is maintained by Raphael Warnock. 44 in the countdown. What will happen with the Syrian butcher? Will Ukraine surprise everyone and outfight him? Yes, they will, with the support of many nations, the US and NATO supplies. What's interesting? I'm being told here for entertainment purposes only that it looks like this Syrian butcher may perish in this particular war. So this may be the last war that he goes through and will perish in this war. So never like to see those things, but a lot of terrible atrocities going on in Ukraine. So that's what they're telling me. So it looks like Ukraine will outfight them. 43. Hello, Sterling. The Salvadoran president has rounded up to 6,000 gang members and placed them in jail with his new take action policies. Will this approach help deter gang crime? Yes. And I'm also being told now there's maybe over 10,000 gang members have been rounded up. And this is all due to declaring a state of war. So congratulations on the efforts going on there, but looks like maybe up to 10,000 and more. So climbing looks like it's going to have a very significant effect. 42 in the countdown. There was a shooting In Brooklyn, New York subway station this week, undetonated explosive devices found. Is this the attack you predicted at a transportation hub? Yes. So when I did the prediction show January 2nd, and it's up on this channel, one of the predictions was a bombing or a quasi-terrorist attack in a transportation hub in New York. And this, in fact, is it. And now, as we see this play out, there were undetonated explosives. It was in a transportation hub, and the individual involved is being charged with terrorism. So this was the event. And I remember also saying that I did not see a significant loss of life. And in fact, looks like nobody did lose their life in the incident. So that's wonderful. So this was the event and the prediction my guys were talking about in the January 2nd show of this year. And it also come up on other shows a month or two ago where people asked, is that still going to happen? So this was the event that we saw take place. 41 in the countdown. Was Gene Roddenberry of Star Trek in contact with ETs, or was he one himself? So many of his futuristic concepts are now mainstream devices. So he was not an ET, but he was very connected to the other side. So his angels and guides interfaced with him, with extraterrestrials. And yes, so he's not an ET, but he channeled a lot of the information. And you'll find that a lot of very successful people in the world, there's certainly an artistic realm and innovation, and people that think out of the box certainly do channel their guides and angels very, very well. A lot of that flow, if you will, comes directly through them. Gene Roddenberry was one of them. And you see very successful musicians and authors also channel the other side very, very well. So certainly Gene Roddenberry did. 40, the countdown. Will there be any repercussions for Hunter Biden and his laptop information? No. And in fact, this is all going to die out very soon. So it's a lot of fluff and a lot of effort by the GOP to really, hurt Biden, but this is all going to die out very soon. Nothing's really going to come of it. 39 in the countdown. Will Russia attack Nordic countries like Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden if they join NATO? Well, I think it's mainly Finland and Sweden I see joining NATO very quickly, very soon here. I do see some sort of an effort by Putin. Attack may be too hard a word, but he's going to test the water with Finland and Sweden. And I see a very strong NATO response. So there's something coming up here with Putin, a little bit of aggression towards Finland and Sweden. But I do see Finland and Sweden joining NATO very quickly, very soon. And so NATO is going to be very responsive in all of this. 38. Sterling, you briefly spoke about your personal spiritual awakening. Once a psychic told you your gifts, what did you do? Did you take psychic classes, have a mentor, read books, self-taught, or do anything? Can you talk about your early days of spiritual trainings? Well, for those that know the story, I was born with a gift and used it personally for many, many years. But it wasn't until about 30 years ago when I met Fred Fassett, just a wonderful psychic medium and a good friend, that he more or less, and I joke about this, shamed me into using it more in public. So the long story short, I did not take any classes. I did not read any books on purpose. I want to kind of keep the information flow very pure, and I didn't want to think that I was being biased in any way by something I read. So I purposely have I've steered clear of reading any spiritual books or psychic books or taking any training. And, everybody has a different route, but that's the route that I chose. I just want to make sure the information I was receiving was very clean and wasn't being hampered or influenced by anything that I read. So had the gift. I didn't really start using it in public till about 30 years ago when Fred Fassett shamed me into it. And I love Fred, and Fred's now passed over and on the other side, and he's around all the time. But that's kind of my journey. So in a funny way, I say sometimes to people, my story, my real story is there is no real story. So it's just, but those are kind of the nuts and bolts of it. So whoever asked the question, thanks for asking the question. 37, do aliens wear clothes? In some sense, a lot of what aliens wear is technology based. So it always has a function. Now, they don't wear clothes just to wear clothes, but things like Elements of clothes, articles of clothing, and jewelry they wear, maybe even around the neck, are really communication devices. So it's technology. So they do wear articles that may look like clothing or jewelry. Many times these are pieces of technology for communicating. 36. I recently had surgery and was in the hospital overnight. While there at about 2 a.m., I was awoken by a young man who was wearing street clothes and a neon yellow vest like a highway worker. I could see him vividly. I asked who he was, to which he did not respond. I reached out to touch him, and my hand went right through his body. A minute later, he walked toward the end of my bed, turned, and disappeared through the adjoining recovery room door. Who was he? This is a spirit of an individual that passed away in the hospital you were in and is actually looking for relatives. So you witnessed somebody, probably very recent passing, moving through the hospital looking for relatives. So congratulations on witnessing that event. Okay, question 35. I'm a blue dot in Kevin McCarthy land. Will the people here in Kern County ever vote him out? Yes, looks like he'll be replaced in the next election cycle very soon due to his affiliation and involvement in the January 6th insurrection. So for entertainment purposes only, but looks like he'll be voted out in the next election cycle. 34. Are angelic beings entirely a different species from human spirit? I have a dear friend who says that his or her spirit guides, who are very much human in their most recent lives, are also major angels or archangels. Does this happen? So this is a multi-layered question. So first off, angels and archangels are very high angelic beings. They didn't really walk the earth per se. They come down all the time, but they didn't walk the earth like human beings. Spiritual guides, in many cases, were human beings that walked the earth, but through a lot of reincarnations have risen to a level where they're now spiritual guides. So I think I answered both sides of this question. They're entirely different from human spirit. Angels are entirely different. And spirit guides are not human beings that you knew. They were human beings that walked the earth. And are they also major angels? No. So hopefully that clears up the question. If not, whoever asked this question, resubmit it. But I think we got most of the elements of it. 33. Sterling, in light of the money that Jared Kushner received from MBS Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, is there some sort of relationship going on between them? Yes, I've always seen this on prior shows, but there's a relationship between 45's family and immediate family, if you will, and secrets that have been revealed to the Middle East having to do with nuclear information, nuclear warfare, and also the setting up of some place to be able to run and hide to when the time comes that some of the family members need to escape. So all this bartering, if you will, or money that was passed between Mohammed bin Salman and the members of the 45 family has everything to do with secrets that have been revealed and setting up a place to escape to. 32 in the countdown. When a large number of people die around the same time, such as in a plane crash or tsunami that killed over 200,000 people in Haiti, or the Christmas one in 2005, is this a soul arrangement with everyone? And what would be the purpose of the souls to all transition together? So this is completely a soul contract. First off, nothing happens by accident. Secondly, nobody exits the planet unless it's part of their life path or their blueprint. But what I do see in terms of major disasters like the Holocaust or 9/11 or tsunami that's being called out here, this is all part of a soul contract by a lot of people. And what happens is they come back very, very quickly, almost as a very heightened level of energy to help the world. So they all reincarnate very, very quickly. So it is part of a soul contract with a higher purpose to come back and help. So hope that answers this question. 31, will there be a cure for type 1 and type 2 diabetics in the future? One that is affordable to at least most people, if not everyone. There will be within 5 years. So type 1, as I recall, I think that's the genetic one. So they asked about type 1, type 2. And type 2 is more based on lifestyle, let's call it. So there'll be a CRISPR technology within 5 years here. That's gene editing technology that will be available for people with type 1 and type 2. Now, my guides are saying here that it's probably going to be going through testing and trials over the next few years here. So some people may hear about it being tested, but it does not look like it'll be ready or available in wide release for about 5 years. 30. Many people have gone on shows and said the only way to stop Putin is to stop countries from purchasing oil from Russia. Do you see this as a way to stop him and end the war? And will oil come from other countries to help these countries that depend on Russia? Yes. So, oil is not the only way to stop Putin. It's certainly a significant way. I know Germany's 40% of their oil comes from Russia. What I do see, and I've talked about this on prior shows, is that the Middle East is going to ramp up production and be there to augment the oil supplies that are going to end up being shut off and sanctioned from Russia. So many parts of Europe will start to get sustained from oil that comes out of Saudi Arabia. I think the first part of this question was, is oil the only way to stop him? Putin is going to get stopped by several elements. Now, we have talked about this before. One is a very severe health condition, it's colon cancer. Second is that there'll be uprising in his internal team. They'll start to limit his power. It's the military and some of his closest advisors. And the third is an uprising from the population of Russia due to some starvation and health problems and things going on in the population with all of the limitations and sanctions on Russia. So several elements serve to kind of reduce or eliminate Putin. But in terms of the oil question, Saudi Arabia is going to augment it. 29, I can hear my guides or angels only when something bad is happening. I wish I could hear them when good things are happening. Why is that? Do I need to do something else to have a more contact with them? Yes, and I also discussed this. There's some simple homework everybody can do. Everybody's born a psychic medium, but it's kind of like if you don't go to the gym all the time, people get out of shape. Now, when things are going bad for us, it's like pulling the fire alarm. And yes, your guides will be around. I mean, their job is to keep you on the planet. And if you go off in a ditch, they'll help you. But there's a big difference between, let's say, an SOS, pull the fire alarm, and working with them as a team member on an ongoing basis. So I did a show called Talking to Heaven on my channel. I encourage everybody to just take a look at it. But there's some simple 5-minute day homework you can do there. It's a simple exercise. It's not meditation, but it allows you to kind of rev up that creative mind center in the brain and will help you start communicating real time as you go through life. So yes, so simple homework you can do and make it happen. 28, why do guides and angels send false messages to clairvoyants? I recently had 3 different gifted psychics tell me I would get a promotion. Just to be told I didn't get it. I want to trust guides and angels. So here's an interesting point of view. What they're telling me, so there's a certain level of skill, if you will, and every psychic and medium you talk to, it's practice makes perfect, certain level of skill. But the other thing is that, remember, we're all walking through a life path and a blueprint that we agreed to. So in fact, there also may be a hidden message here for you is to rely or lean more on your guides and angels and not look for it externally with other clairvoyants. I've seen this happen before where people will say, I went to many psychics mediums, I always got the wrong message, or maybe it was the same message, but it turned out to be wrong. And that is absolutely a message from your team, your spiritual team, your angels and guides, is start now developing the skill internally so you can communicate directly. So a little bit of both, a little bit of skill, the psychic and clairvoyant. But if you went to, I think this person said 3 different gifted psychics, to me, that leans more towards a life path lesson. They want you to lean more on your skills to talk with the other side. 27, a few years ago, when I was standing in my kitchen, an electromagnetic kind of energy appeared on my right shoulder. It was a bluish green blob about a foot in diameter and a little fluorescent. I don't know why I reacted as I did, but at first I froze and then moved across the room without looking directly at it. It followed me. After a minute or 2, it disappeared. What was that? So this was a family member checking in on you. Now, orbs come in all sizes. This particular one, this person said it was 1 foot in diameter. It's a larger orb, more energetic orb, probably closer to you in life. So congratulations. But they're telling me it was a family member that came to speak with you. And it feels more like a mother's energy to me, or a motherly energy is what this was. 26, when I was around 3 or 4 in the mid 50s, I lived in a small town in Illinois. I was in my yard and saw a huge silent ship slowly moving over my house. Afterward, I had 3 small red dots on my arm in a triangle pattern. It was very surreal. Was this a UFO? And what were the dots? This was a UFO experience. And this, in more or less, this was like a tagging. So whoever was going over the house, you were the wrong person. They didn't need to deal with you or need to react with you or interact with you. And so these 3 dots were a bit of a tagging. Shouldn't be something that's permanent, but that's what it was all about. 25. My 2 kids are allergic to all kinds of tree nuts and sesame seeds. This allergy is not in my family or my husband's family. Why do they have it? And do you see any treatment or cure for it in the near future? Yes, here again, this is all going to be covered under CRISPR gene editing technology. There's probably 1,000 different human ailments that are going to be addressed by CRISPR technology. And they'll be done in an order that makes sense in kind of a profitable way, if you will, to the companies doing it. And unfortunately, these are going to be for-profit companies working on these solutions. So they'll go after. But within about 5 years here, might be as much as 6 years, there'll be a way to handle this. Now, I think the question was, why do my kids have it? Because it's not my family. So this also, for me, speaks to a life path purpose, is that it looks like your children or some of your family members will be involved in early testing and treatment. So that's part of why that's on their life path. They're going to be helped by it, but part of the early testing for others to validate the solution. And that's why it's part of your life path. And that's why it doesn't appear in other family members. 24, I was recently told that I am a magnet for bad things. Looking back over my life, I have to agree to a point. Did I make a spiritual contract for this to happen to me? And is there any way I can protect myself for this to stop happening to me? Well, there's no such thing as, say, living under a black cloud or under dark energy, or how they put this, a magnet for bad things. No, again, it all structures back to life path lessons. So there's things here you're learning in each of those lessons. Now, it's in our power for all of us to manifest anything that we want, within reason, I'm saying, and to create our reality. We create our own reality. So really the acknowledgement of this, say things are going bad. So what's a perfect outcome look like? What do I want to manifest in life? Shifting the energy more towards what I call the love side will turn this around. But let's say for someone to walk around saying I'm a magnet for bad things, no, but you're helping to create your own reality. But even if they were bad things that occur, they're all part of your life path lessons. 23, this Sunday we celebrate Easter. Passover also starts this week. Are there any special events or holidays celebrated by our friends and relatives in heaven? This question comes up a lot. On the other side, they don't necessarily celebrate the same events and holidays, even religious ceremonies that we do. Remember, everything's aligned to the one force on the other side. So many times family members will come around during, let's say, special holidays only because we are celebrating those holidays and they feel they need to be around us. But it's not that they're acknowledging any of these special holidays per se on the other side. So they're around us in love. They want to be around us whenever we're celebrating, but it's not that they typically celebrate those holidays on the other side. 22, hi Sterling, I'm worried about the news about Shanghai's new variant. Are we going to have another year of lockdowns and everything that goes with it? Well, not a lot of lockdowns, but we're going to see another surge. And my guides had told me there's 2 surges this year. We're right on the cusp, if you will, of the first surge. There'll be another surge towards the end of the year in kind of October, November, December timeframe. This is going to be a derivative of BA2. But yeah, I mean, this is the one that's in Shanghai right now, and it's going to be coming over to the US and many places worldwide. Now, the good news is, from vaccination, it'll be somewhat mitigated. If you're vaccinated and boosted, if you're careful, certainly won't see the kind of death rates we saw, but it's going to be something that we're going to see a lot more face masks and social distancing, and we're going to have to be very careful. So 2 surges this year is the first surge we're going to see coming over. 21 in the countdown. Titanic hit an iceberg 110 years ago on April 14th. The Russians lost their ship the same date. Is there any correlation between these events occurring at the same time? And did the boat really catch fire or was sunk by a missile? No direct correlation to the Titanic, but it was sunk by Ukraine-made missiles. Looks like they were derivatives of cruise missiles. So no direct correlation to Titanic, but absolutely sunk by missiles from Ukraine. 20. Many years ago, I had an experience that could have been a dream, but I've always felt that maybe it was something else. In this dream, I was like a ball of bright light energy. I flew like a rocket out of Earth's atmosphere and met up with other beings that appeared like a ball of light energy. We gathered in a circle. It was like a council meeting. We were discussing what to do about Earth. The sounds of the voices talking were not words like we use, but more like high pitch frequency sounds or something similar to the sounds of dolphins. It wasn't until I came back to my present reality, woke up, that I realized the sound was not words. A few years after this, I was looking through a book about angels and was surprised when I saw an illustration that looked very similar to what I saw or experienced. Was this true? Was this just a dream or something else? Well, this was for you, this was astral travel, and you traveled out to a place in the universe or really had to do in a very similar way to before you came down to Earth. So you experienced what a lot of individuals experience in dealing with angelic beings and spiritual beings before you come down. And this really was a resonance almost to just before you coming down, but congratulations. And by the way, dolphins do have a very high frequency way of communicating, very sophisticated. So it's not the English language, but dolphins are some of the more sophisticated mammals on the earth. 19. Here's my question. Two of us walked away from a group and followed the path into some trees. As we walked, we noticed a change in the scenery. The path was gone. There were fall leaves and trees in the middle of summer, and it became misty. Suddenly, a man in 11th century armor on a horse galloped up to us and explained that the rest of the group was getting ready to go and we should head back to the castle, and then he rode off. The path reappeared and we made our way back. We asked the staff if there was someone dressed up in costume riding a horse, but they all said no. What did we experience? You walk through an entrance to a portal. And there are thousands of portal entrances on Earth, and some of them are much better disguised. But you walk through a portal and you saw somebody from a past time in history, and that person kind of saved you and told you to turn around. So that was a time portal, and there are many on Earth. 18. In fact, by the way, I'm being reminded, Skinwalker Ranch has several portals, and I'll call them time portals, but the portals can take you anywhere in time. 18. Are my deceased pets visiting me at night? I often feel something running across the bed. I think it is Bo, a cat I had for 17 years, paying a visit. Am I right? Is he getting ready to reincarnate? Yes, absolutely. This is your prior pet. I think you said his name was Bo. Is that right? I think so, Bo. Definitely, but he's not getting ready to reincarnate. He's actually getting you prepared for the next animal that's coming to your house. Looks like another cat. So yeah, congratulations, that's Bo. 17 in the countdown. Will Mexico be able to stop the violent cartels that are terrorizing the population? When will this happen? So within about 4 years here, there's going to be significant investment, leading up to a 4-year period around green technology in this area of the world, around in Mexico. So it's not until the economy in Mexico starts being more focused on green technology will the whole economic situation start to shift. So unfortunately, it's going to be a little rough with some of the cartels there for a number of years. But my guides have always said the green technology investments are really going to be very helpful. 16. My dog Kenzo has been with me now since 2006 and is currently in his last days. He has help with my 2 children, now grown. I can't put him down and will never allow that, but it tears me up to watch him deteriorate. What is my lesson in this situation? Well, remember, animals are part of the angelic realm. They're here to teach us lessons. And the lesson you're supposed to learn is that at some point, there's always a point to say goodbye. But you don't really ever say goodbye because no one ever really dies, right? No one's ever really born or dies. But at some point, you have to look at every situation as a quality of life. So in this particular situation, there's a lesson on quality of life and when it's time to say goodbye. But remember, animals are here to teach us a lesson. So they're fully aware of the lesson. They're helping you learn. And I know you're going to make the right decision at the right time. But he has a lot of love for you. And it's all about understanding, life does go on. 15. I remember I was lying in bed at night playing with a flashlight. Suddenly, the light revealed 3 or 4 figures standing by my bedside wearing white capes. I got scared and hid under the blanket and eventually fell asleep. The next morning, I remembered a dream that these people were doing something with me, but I don't remember what. 67 years later, I still remember this experience. Was it a very vivid dream? And if not, who were they and what were they doing? Well, these were actually family members for you visiting you. These were not extraterrestrials, not ETs, not aliens, but they were family members. And once they realized that you were scared, they left. Now, it's very typical of experiences that children have when you're young, certainly up to the ages of 5, 6, or 7. We're really completely open when it comes to psychic mediumship. And so a lot of times children will experience family members, other entities. So these were family members, but they left because they certainly realized it scared you. Okay, question 14. Hi, Sterling. I'm 50 and I have really bad arthritis. There isn't much they could do for my pain. Is there any hope for future cures? Absolutely. If I look at a top 5 list of developments around CRISPR technology, this will be one of them. So arthritis, relieving that condition and helping the body heal and reverse some of these problems will all be part of CRISPR technology. So this will be one of the first ones within 5 years on a top 5 list. It will be. 13. My child has been complaining of seeing shadow figures and now more recently hearing whispering when they are around. Who are these shadow figures and how can I get them to leave my child alone? Well, these are spirits. They're benevolent spirits. Well, in some cases, it looks like it could be a few trickster spirits. So, it's a good idea to say a quick protective prayer, which is, you ask to stand in supreme protective white light. You ask for any spirits here that are not of the light to be cast back into the light. Don't come back to this location. And they can also very respectfully, both you and your child, ask the spirits to stand back, give you space, and respect your space. And they will. So there's nothing evil here, but there's something that's inquisitive about these spirits. So a quick protective prayer and ask the spirits to please stand back, that you're scaring, they're scaring you, and ask them to give you some space. That will work. Number 12, will Boris Johnson be British Prime Minister long? At least for another year. I think what they're telling me here, he almost was ousted during the last 12 months, but looks like he kind of redeemed himself somehow. But he'll be around in his position for at least another year. That looks like he'll be replaced. 11. I am 70 years old and was diagnosed with macular degeneration a few years ago, for which there is no cure. Will there be treatment available in the next 10 years that might help me and others like me? Yes, within 3 years, blue laser technology is going to be developed, they're telling me. And then within another 8 years from where we are right now, there'll be some CRISPR technology developments, gene editing. And for those who don't watch my shows all the time, CRISPR technology, this is the building blocks of a whole new age in medicine and treatments. So it's all about unlocking gene editing. And a lot of this technology came from our ET friends. So it's going to help many, many ailments for humankind. 10, the late psychic Sylvia Browne, who predicted COVID, also said that Japan would sink beneath the ocean in year 2080 due to a series of volcanoes exploding all at once. What is your take on this? No, I don't see anything like that happening in 2080, but my guides are telling me there are going to be some large volcanic eruptions occurring in 2032 and 2042 that will cause some significant nuclear problems, that is nuclear power plant problems, problem for Japan. So I don't see Japan sinking, but I sure see 2032 and 2042 being some difficult years around earthquakes for Japan. Number 9 in our countdown, Will there be a cure or treatment that really helps people with chronic fatigue syndrome and other autoimmune diseases soon? Yes, in 3 years, there'll be a natural remedy developed from plants that's going to be helpful in this area that somehow helps neurologically. So I'm not a doctor, I play one on TV, but they're saying there's a natural plant-based element or a medication here that will help within 3 years. And then another 5 to 6 years, there'll also be CRISPR technology that will help in this area. So I don't know why chronic fatigue syndrome happens, whether it's metabolism or it's a neurological function or something else, but there are a couple of things coming up here that are going to be helpful for it. Yes. Number 8 in the countdown, the Justice Department is presently investigating 45's theft of classified materials. Is 45 hiding more materials, and will they be discovered soon? Yes. More materials are being hidden, and the FBI and CIA completely have the lock on where these top secret or classified documents are. And actually, some of it's going to come out in the news over the next few weeks here, next 2 to 3 weeks. 7. Was there really a device now called the Looking Glass discovered in Iraq in the 1990s that shows the future timelines of the world? Is there really a group of retired intelligence officers calling themselves the guardians of the Looking Glass that have access to this device? So yes, I'm being told this was a real device. The device since, like they're just showing me the device has actually been shut down. So it was a real device. It did work for a period of years. I don't see this group they're calling out the Guardians of the Looking Glass really exist anymore, but this device has been shut down such that people try to use it. It doesn't really yield any useful information anymore. So the ETs decided to shut it down, but it did come from the ETs. So it's real. It's a real device. 6, do ETs have access to psychic mediums in their own world? No, not really, because they all have the ability. So if you consider psychic or mediumship ability, their ETs are more highly evolved than humankind, and they can not only communicate telepathically, but they see energetically and have a visual light spectrum 10 times larger than ours that they can see. So really, nobody specializes as a psychic medium per se, because they all have the gift. Now, all humans have the gift, but a lot of people don't choose to develop it the way they do. Number 5, Canada recently announced it is banning foreign investors from buying homes for 2 years to help cool down the housing market. Will the U.S. do something similar? It will actually help domestic home buyers, not investors. Yes, looks like very shortly the U.S. will do something very similar to limit offshore major investors from buying up real estate. And I also see new penalties coming in for individuals, let's say, that circumvent that law, that there'll be penalties if you try to turn the house over like in a year. So they're going to try to control who buys. And then if accidentally people do buy, they're going to stop them from flipping it within a year. So yeah, very similar laws that Canada is implementing here are going to come to the US and are going to come very soon here this year. 4, is Putin going to attack Finland? I think I did see this earlier. There are going to be some issues with Finland and Sweden both, but they're going to join NATO very quickly. And so it looks to me like all this is going to get taken care of. I guess I wouldn't call this a major attack, but I do see some sort of action taken by Putin to try to threaten Finland and Sweden, both. I think this question was only about Finland, yeah, both. But NATO is going to respond very quickly. And I also see both Finland and Sweden becoming NATO members very quickly. So there's help here. And I do see some stupid actions by Putin. Number 3, many people with near-death experiences say that on the other side, there is no time. If there is no time, how do we explain walking, talking, and doing all the things they can do on Earth, which requires the passage of time? If there is no time, how does anything move at all? So this is a good question that does come up all the time. First off, there is time on the other side in the heaven dimension, but time is nonlinear. And what I mean by that is that time is nonlinear because everything moves faster than the speed of light. Now, Einstein has a whole theory of relativity where he talks about things as you approach the speed of light, any object that approaches the speed of light, and theoretically on the planet, most people can't do it. But as elements approach the speed of light, time becomes nonlinear. So things can go faster or slower in time. But all things change as you get close to the speed of light. And in fact, you exceed the speed of light. So in heaven, there is time, but it's nonlinear. So you can go faster or slower or change where you are. So hopefully that helps. If somebody needs to want a more detailed answer, ask again on the community board and we'll pick it up next week. 2, do you see anything coming up this week? Absolutely. Strong NATO response around Finland and Sweden becoming members. I don't know if it'll happen that fast, but I see big moves in that area. I also see additional White House tapes and top secret records coming up into the public eye this week, around 45 in the White House. And I do see some more advances around COVID treatment here. So I know that they were talking about a breathalyzer this week, but there's going to be some new advances in COVID treatment, COVID vaccines, as well as ways of testing for it. So you'll see those announced in the news very quickly. Oh, they're just reminding me that probably some sort of a press release about what's going on in Mar-a-Lago for 45. So maybe that's what they're talking about, the other top secret information, all that's coming up related to Mar-a-Lago. Absolutely. And number 1 in our countdown, do you have anything your guides want to share? Yes, remember, we are all here to evolve in love and spirituality, and that requires sometimes some important lessons for the world. So just remember at this special holiday time when all of our guides and angels and family members and ascended masters are closer, this is the time that we want to grow in love and spirituality and really send that blanket of love and peace out to the world, especially to Ukraine and even all the people of Russia, that they can see their way towards peace. So that concludes the show for this week, Sunday, April 17th, 2022. I will be doing a show with Linda G., the Comanche Psychic, next Sunday. And as always, if you need to reach me, sterlingpsychicmedium.com, look for the Book a Session tab. And until next Sunday, I'm wishing a lot of goodwill to everybody and sending out tremendous love to you and your families. See you soon.